and know exactly how that bill is going to work. And indeed, we found out through the CARES Act that the Main Street lending facility, which we funded at roughly $500 billion, it wasn't as useful as we would have hoped. Conversely, the Paycheck Protection Program was more successful than our wildest dreams. And so I think by seeing what works and what doesn't work, we can be better stewards of the taxpayer dollars by spending the money more efficiently and in a more targeted way. This isn't like highway bills or farm bills or defense spending bills where we have an idea about what's needed for individual programs. There was no precedent for this pandemic, no handbook, no clear way to gauge how long this crisis would go on or what would be needed to sustain our response. After the CARES Act passed, we knew it made the most sense to hit the pause button and see what worked well, what didn't, and where more help was needed. As I said, there were certain programs like the Paycheck Protection Program that almost immediately dried up. If I'm not mistaken, in 2 weeks, roughly $350 billion was obligated under the Paycheck Protection Program, a strong indication that we really hit the sweet spot when it came to helping those small businesses. And that's why we added more funding in April, another $320 billion. And we extended the program in July and reinvested in the Paycheck Protection Program again in the omnibus. As I said, there were other places where the money went unspent, but fortunately in the most recent bill, we were able to repurpose hundreds of billions of dollars in unspent funds, again, to target it to where the need was greatest, where it could help the most. There's no question that tens of millions of workers and their families have been hurt by this virus. We all know that. And I think we've all acted together, by and large, responsibly in trying to respond to that. No one will be left out if we have a means and method of targeting this to those people, whether it's direct payments, enhanced unemployment benefits, incentives to their employer to maintain them on payroll. And now that we have the beginning of the distribution of the vaccine, my hope is that in the coming months, we will get back to, if not the new normal, whatever the next normal will be. But we're just a few days from kicking off a new Congress, and I have no reason to believe that our coronavirus relief work is finished here today. As a matter of fact, Vice President Biden said he expects to send us an additional request for help once he assumes office. Once the legislation we have passed has a chance to benefit the American people, we'll see if more relief is needed, and then, if it is needed, we should absolutely do more. I still believe in the wisdom of the incremental approach, and I believe our Democrat friends will join us in responding to true needs of this crisis without month-long delays or irresponsible spending. Countless Texans have told me about the importance of the relief that we provided through direct payments, unemployment benefits, food assistance, and other forms of support by the laws we passed throughout this year. I was proud to support each of these policies, which have eased the financial strains on millions of Texans and other Americans, and will continue to work with my colleagues to provide assistance as our war on COVID-19 rages on. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
President.
Senator for Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've heard a lot of revisionist history this afternoon. Look back in March when Congress did the right thing. The Senate voted unanimously. Because of our efforts, 13 million people were kept out of poverty. We know that because we did relatively generous unemployment insurance. We did the direct payments. We helped with small business loans. But then this Senate thought its work was done for the year. We begged Senator McConnell month after month after month to come back and help. As I said, 13 million people were kept out of poverty because of the work this Congress did in March of this year. But now, since many of these benefits, especially the unemployment benefit and the direct payments were not continued, of course, those benefits expired in August, and we have seen 8 million people drop into poverty in this country since. And yet this Congress, Senator McConnell refused and refused and refused. I hear this revisionist history that Democrats just want to help people that are already affluent, give them more money. Well, remember back in March, the only amendment that we considered, the only amendment that Senator McConnell allowed on the floor of the Senate to the CARES Act, the only amendment was to take away the $600 a week unemployment insurance. The only place Republicans fought was the $600 a week unemployment insurance. That, more than any single thing we did, is why people were kept out of poverty. Now, the best we could do was $300 a week unemployment insurance. The best we could do. And Senator McConnell, in spite of Senator Cornyn and others' comments, Senator McConnell waited. Finally, we were able to do it. The President of the United States threatened to veto it, causing millions of Americans to fall off their unemployment insurance. I mean, we know all that. It's just important to remember all that. But there's one simple question before the Senate this week: are we going to put more money in people's pockets? The American people made it clear on Election Day they want a government that's on their side. This is our chance to deliver for them, to show people whom we serve that we can make a real difference in their lives, which we did back in March. It's pretty simple. The best way to help Ohio workers and families is to put more money in their pockets, not in the bank accounts of the largest corporations and the biggest banks, hoping it will trickle down. We know it never does. The CEOs just pay themselves instead. We know, Mr. President, just recently, more good news for America's CEOs who are able again to do stock buybacks, more dividend distributions. A lot of corporations have made a lot of money more power to them during this pandemic, but those are the corporations that continue to get the big tax breaks. We need to instead directly invest in people who make this country work. It helps people pay the bills and stay in their homes and get through this downturn. It injects money into local economies that really need it. The more money people have, the more they spend at small businesses that are hurting. We know this works. It did in the spring. We came together. We crossed the aisle, passed the CARES Act, expanded unemployment, did direct stimulus checks, keeping 13 million people out of poverty. The bill we passed last week was a good step in that direction, but we should make it stronger. Back in March, my original plan that I tried to negotiate as I sat with Secretary Mnuchin and a handful of other senators was a $2,000 a week, $2,000 per person, adults and children. We called for them to be sent automatically throughout the year, every quarter, as long as we remained in a public health emergency. It's clear now what we could have done and should have done. No one could predict how long this crisis would last. Today, we still aren't sure when everyone will be vaccinated, when the economy will return to full strength. We don't want to sit idly by. We don't want to wonder how bad it could get. We're the strongest, richest country on earth. We have the resources to do something about it. We just need leadership willing to use every tool we have. If they refuse to support this $2,000 per person, if they refuse to support these direct payments, Leader McConnell and Senate Republicans will again make it perfectly clear for the American people whose side they're on. Every time there's a fork in the road, and Senator McConnell and Senate Republicans have to make a decision. Either go with corporate interest or go with working families. Every single time they choose corporate interest. They had no problem pouring money into corporate coffers with their tax cut and blowing up the deficit. I remember, Mr. President, just down the hall here, Senator McConnell's office. I remember lobbyists lining up looking for those tax cuts back 3 years ago, and they got those tax cuts. They didn't say anything about government deficits back then, $1.5 trillion added to the deficit. They didn't mind that because that was money going into their contributors' pockets, into big corporate coffers, for the wealthiest people in this country. They were all too happy to let the government shovel loans to the biggest banks and companies. But in the middle of the worst crisis of our lifetimes, faced with a chance to give money directly to ordinary Americans, my colleagues claim we can't afford it. That's just simply a lie. We're the richest country on earth. I remember Bill Spriggs, economist at Howard University, told the Banking and Housing Committee in September, we didn't win World War II by worrying whether or not we could afford it. We were in a global crisis. We marshaled all our vast resources and talents to rise to meet it. We grew the economy from middle class out. We paid down the debt with raising wages. If we've learned anything from this crisis, it should be that we can do the same again. Americans are tired of being told we can't. It's the only answer that Senator McConnell and Senate Republicans ever have with most people's problems. We can't help you. We can't solve your problem. You're on your own. Let's aim higher. Let's deliver for the people we serve. Let's put $2,000 into their pockets, money that will make such a difference for so many families. It will help a mother worried about how she'll pay back rent. It will keep a laid-off restaurant worker from turning to a payday lender. It will allow a father to buy a new computer so his kids are better able to learn online. These are millions of real people we swore an oath to serve, who would breathe a little easier this New Year's if we pass this. So let's be clear about the decision today and this week before the Senate. Are we going to give the people we serve $2,000, or are you going to stand in the way? It's that simple. Let's come together. Let's pass this. Let's make a real difference in people's lives. I note the absence of quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.
Do you guys want me to turn it off? Let me know.
Okay, peoples.
I can leave it on. I'll give you guys an option. So if and when you're tired of listening to it, let me know. I'll gladly turn it off. We have options. Um,
Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 2365BN. Today's date is December 29th, 2020, and the title of the episode is What is About to Unfold Will Be Earth-Shattering. Birth of a New Nation, Checkmate. Let's talk about being prepared. Hundreds of thousands in Oklahoma are finding themselves without power as a destructive ice storm flattened power lines and trees across the area. The fear of going days without power is the exact reason why I have the Fighter Flare flashlight. This is a professional-grade tactical ultra-bright flashlight. It's entirely solar-powered, so I never have to worry about batteries dying when I need it the most or plugging it into my wall outlet to charge. The Fighter Flare flashlight also comes with a life-saving emergency strobe setting along with 4 other unique life-saving modes. The Fighter Flare flashlight comes with all this and more. Get the Fighter Flare flashlight at fighterflare.com or click the link in the description. You'll get 20% off in celebration of the holiday season with promo code X20. Get yours today. I highly recommend it. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we need to remember that this is not just about a 4-year election. This is about exposing their entire system. This is about exposing the economic system, the swamp in D.C., It's about exposing the invisible enemy. It's exposing it all. And during the presidential debates, Trump continually called out Biden and where he said, listen, he wants to pack the Supreme Court. Please give us an answer. And Biden would hold back. You want to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. You want to take down the wall. And what has been happening since the mainstream media, the invisible enemy, the corrupt politicians are continually pushing out the idea that Biden is the president-elect. What has Biden been doing this entire time? He's letting everyone know exactly what he plans to do. Now, people are listening to this. Remember, he didn't get the votes. 75 million people voted for Trump. Actually, with the election fraud now, we can see in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and many other places that there are a lot more votes than there were voters. And there are big, big problems. But what Trump is doing right now, he's allowing these deep state fools to do what they do best, expose themselves. And what is Biden doing? He's out there letting everyone know that he's going to reverse everything that Trump did. Now, think about what the people are doing. They're listening to this. Is this the person you want? This is what he came out and said, that his administration will clean up humanitarian disaster that the Trump administration has systematically created on our southern border. So does he mean that he's going to get rid of the wall? That he's going to allow people just to come over the border like Obama did? What did Trump do? Well, he stopped all of this. He made people go to the point of entry. They had to be vetted. It's like someone coming to your home. Would you just let them in if you don't know them? Would you allow them just to stay there if you don't know them? Or would you ask them questions through the door? Would you run some background checks? Would you make sure that these people are on the up and up? Well, it's the same thing coming into this country. You don't know who these people are. You don't know if they're criminals, drug traffickers, human traffickers. But Biden, he's going to undo all of that. And what's very interesting is that Gallup, they had a poll for the most admired man. Now, they're continually telling us that Biden received 80 million votes. Completely impossible because the numbers don't add up. But he only received 6% as the most admired man. So he received 6% as the most admired man, but he got 80 million votes. Does that make any sense? No. Now, Biden, he is out there complaining that his team is not getting all the information that they need from the outgoing administration. Now, remember, Chris Miller said we're going to be taking a pause right now until after the Christmas break. And what is Biden doing? He's making a really big deal about this. Now, does he need any of this information? No. Why is that? Because he's not going to be president. He cheated. Actually, he'll be arrested for treason because he knowingly helped with the cheating. Oh, and all the other things he did. So we can see that election fraud, the narrative of election fraud, is really building up right now. And the Patriots are producing more and more evidence. And the state legislatures, they're looking at this, looking at the numbers, saying, this doesn't make any sense. And we're going to see things start to reverse now. Now, Ron Komonkey Z, he tweeted this out about Dominion systems. And we know these are systems that are programmed to do specific tasks like cheat in the election. And this is what he tweeted out. Dominion, now the largest or second largest voting system company, is a foreign-controlled and depends upon secret source code created and owned by Smartmatic, a foreign-controlled company with ties to Venezuela government led by Hugo Chavez. And he circled it in the document showing that, yes, this is true. Then he tweeted this out, which is very interesting. Did you know that Dominion has been using a shared SSL certificate hosted on IPs based in multiple countries, including Serbia, Canada, and the USA? And showed us that, yes, this is true. Now, remember Executive Order 2018. Now, a lot of people are wondering, well, why hasn't Trump used Executive Order 2018? Why would you show your cards now? You don't. You wait for the last moment to show your hand. Let them hide. Let them lie. Let them do what they do best. He's allowing the enemy to destroy themselves. Now, what's very interesting is that we've come to find out that in Georgia, the judge who block the election officials from challenging voters who live outside of the registered district is Stacey Abrams' sister. So Judge Leslie A. Gardner blocked the Muskogee County Board of Elections and Registrations from keeping more than 4,000 targeted voters from casting ballots in the U.S. Senate runoff election on January 5th. The voters in question allegedly live outside of the jurisdiction in which they were registered, which would be an illegal vote. And this individual is Stacey Abrams' sister. Now, that is very interesting. And out in Pennsylvania, remember when Trump tweeted this out yesterday? Breaking news in Pennsylvania, there were 205,000 more votes than there were voters. This alone flips the state to President Trump. Well, it seems that the PA lawmakers, they were looking at the election numbers, and they come to find out, yeah, these numbers don't add up. This is what Melissa Tate tweeted out. Report released by PA legislators showing an error votes reported versus people who actually voted. Who is ready for the first decertification? So in this, it shows that it doesn't add up. It says county data, 6,962,607. Sure data, 6,760,230. And then when you subtract this, you get 202,377. More ballots cast than voters who voted. There is something wrong here. Maybe we should go back and check Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and the rest of the states. Because it seems we're not just having a problem in one place. We're having a problem in multiple places. And this is not just one or two votes. This is hundreds of thousands of votes. And Rasmussen reports they attached this entire letter from the PA lawmakers and just tweeted out the following: not good. That's it. And it isn't good. Well, Trump tweeted this out. He says a group of Republican lawmakers in Pennsylvania say 200,000 more votes were counted in the 2020 election than voters. 100% went to Biden. State Representative Frank Ryan said they found troubling discrepancies after analysis of Election Day data. This is far more votes than is needed by me to win Pennsylvania. Not to mention hundreds of thousands of votes in other categories, which increase my already big lead into a landslide. All other swing states show likewise. We need a new, energetic Republican leadership. This cannot stand. Can you imagine if the Republicans stole a presidential election from the Democrats? All hell would break out. Republican leadership only wants the path of least resistance. Our leaders, not me, of course, are pathetic. They only know how to lose. P.S. I got many senators and congressmen, congresswomen elected. I do believe they forgot. Now he's calling them out, putting pressure on them. The people are watching this. The people are observing this. What are they going to do? This is being done on purpose to get them to act, to do the right thing. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But what's very interesting is that we've been talking about Red 1, Red 2, Red 3. Red 1, where they're taking down POTUS's Twitter account. Red 2 is when the communications in the United States is blacked out. And I do believe this is going to happen around January 6th, around that time period. And then Red 3 is when Pence goes into hiding or Pelosi goes into hiding. Now, what's very interesting is that NBC, they put out an article saying that they received some information, of course, from an anonymous source, saying that Pence is going to be leaving the United States right after January 6th to fly overseas to Israel. Now, this seems kind of strange. Why would he do that as soon as he handles the election? Now, remember, we know that Trump and his team, the Patriots, they leak out information. The leaks are real. The news is fake. Why do you think they're pushing this out there? Is this referring to Red 3? It's starting to seem that way. Now, we know that Durham and others, they are investigating. We know that Durham now is a special counsel. We know that Durham, because of Trump, He can show classified information to the grand jury or wherever he sees fit. We know that he's wrapping up the investigation. Trump just the other day tweeted out about Durham. And all of this has been planned perfectly for a specific time frame. Remember, the Patriots only get one chance to do this, and it has to be done right. The I's dotted, the T's crossed, following the rule of law. Now, Password Hunter 02 tweeted this out, and Sidney Powell responded to this, but let me read the first tweet here. Mark Elias and Perkins Coie retained Fusion GPS on behalf of Crooked Hillary Camp and DNC to hire fake Russia dossier author Christopher Steele, who colluded with the Russians to produce the fake dossier. Perkins Coie, that has been representing DNC in voter fraud lawsuits, has offices in Shanghai and Beijing. Now, Sidney Powell, she responded to this and said, "Oh, this explains a lot, and why Mark Elias of the fraudulent Steele dossier fame keeps showing up on the side of lies in all our cases, and judges throw cases out on his false legal defenses. They wrote the script. Trillions of global wealth and power depend on their huge fraud." And she's absolutely right. And we can see that Sidney Powell, she has been digging around. She has been showing evidence of election fraud. She's worked on the Flynn case. And she met with the president. I wonder if something else is being planned where she's going to be used later on. It's starting to feel that way. Now, what's very interesting is that we know Jeffrey Epstein, he didn't kill himself, but the cellmate who was sharing the cell with Jeffrey Epstein, he died of COVID. Ephraim Stowe Reyes shared a cell with Epstein, but was moved out the day before the accused sex trafficker reportedly hanged himself. Did they just get rid of him? It's starting to feel that way. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell, she was trying to get bail, and a federal judge, Judge Allison Nathan, said that Maxwell poses a serious flight risk due to her wealth and holding citizenship in more than one country, and he has denied bail for Ghislaine Maxwell. Remember, these individuals are going to be used later on in crimes against humanity. All the pieces are being put into place. Everything is being brought down to one moment and one moment only. And I do believe that moment is coming very, very quickly. And what's very interesting is that we know that Trump has been pushing Section 230. He's been hitting this very hard. I do believe he wants this out before January 6th because he understands what the deep state is going to plan to do. And I'm talking about big tech, mainstream media, you name it. Once the information comes out, we know we're going to see censorship like we've never seen before. I do believe with this, he's trying to counter this. And remember, going back in Q's post, it says if this does happen and there is a blackout of social media, the Patriots can make these companies a public utility. And I do believe this is why Trump is pushing so hard. Actually, the Arizona Republican Party, they're the ones who created that picture on the front, the splash screen of this report. They did a great job with that. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. But they came out and they said, Twitter wants to cancel our official account. That's too bad. And all because we support our president and care about election integrity. If that's how it ends, no, we love you all, and you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Arizona GOP or Instagram AZGOP. Or Parler, which is AZGOP. Now, I don't know if they're going to be allowed to stay on those platforms, but we'll have to see what happens when everything starts to fall apart. Now, we know that Trump, he's been pushing Section 230. He's wrapped Section 230 and everything else with the payments of the omnibus bill. Now, it's two separate bills, but he's trying to move them together to have them talked about in the same instance. And there's a reason for this, because I do believe he has the focus of America. He has the focus of the people, and they're all saying this. And this is what he tweeted out. Weak and tired Republican leadership will allow the bad defense bill to pass. Say goodbye to vital Section 230 termination, your national monuments, fort names, and treasures inserted by Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, 5G and our great soldiers being removed and brought home from foreign lands who do nothing for us, a disgraceful act of cowardice and total submission by weak people to big tech. Negotiate a better bill or get better leaders. Now, Senate should not approve NDAA until fixed. Now, what's very interesting is that Representative Matt Gaetz, he is out there saying that the NDAA was hijacked by the forever war lobby and they're bought and paid for allies in the United States Congress. President Trump took a principled stand against the unprincipled legislation by vetoing it. And he's letting everyone know they should support him on this. And Trump, he has the spotlight on them. We're facing an uncertain future. The next few weeks will set the tone for almost everything. Do you really want to be caught unprepared if things suddenly take a turn for the worst? You don't have to. You can start preparing today so you have enough emergency food, water, and other essentials on hand at all times, no matter what happens. It's best to have at least 1 month's supply of food and water for everyone in your household. You want long-term storage food that lasts up to 25 years, so it's ready whenever you need it. That's why I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the go-to leaders for emergency preparedness, and they're the only source my family uses and trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save $100 off a full 4-week supply of nutritious meals that supply 2,000 calories a day delivered discreetly to your home. Saving $100 is impossible to pass up, especially now. So go to preparewithx22.com and get ready now. Or click the link in the description. There's no time to lose. Do it now. He's using the omnibus bill with the $2,000 to bring light onto the NDAA, onto Section 230. And the senators, the Republican senators, they need to step up. I mean, they keep telling us that they're very angry at big tech, that they're censoring all these people. Well, take action. And that's what Trump is doing. That's what Trump is saying. Take action. You kept on talking about it, but you haven't done a thing. Now is your time to do it. And I do believe they should, and hopefully they will. We'll have to see how this all turns out. Now, what's very interesting is that with this pandemic, we know there are a lot of dictators out there, mayors, governors, you name it, and they want people to wear masks, even though masks don't work. Now, what's very interesting is that the New York Post, they put an article out that more than 1.5 billion face masks will pollute oceans this year. Now, isn't this the same thing, the same problem we had with the straws? That the plastic straws went up the nostrils of the sea turtles? Well, what happens if these masks get caught around the sea turtles or fish or lobsters? Shouldn't we ban face masks then? I mean, isn't it the same argument? I mean, if we're polluting the waters with these face masks, maybe we should just get rid of them altogether. I do believe so. Now, out in California, things aren't making sense with the COVID numbers, the flu numbers, and people are starting to take notice. Carlo DeMeo, he tweeted this out. Breaking: San Diego County data for flu infection shows only 36 cases so far this year. In a typical year, we get over 17,073 on average. Once again, I'm calling for a full audit of the COVID-19 data we are seeing reported from our public health system. Now the question is, where did all these flu cases go? And how come the death rate is pretty much in line with last year's? Are they just taking the numbers and moving them to where they want? Doing post-mortem COVID tests and saying, yeah, ooh, this person died of the flu, but yeah, they test positive for COVID-19, so we're going to just say they died from COVID-19. Oh, this person died of pneumonia, but they also had COVID-19, but we'll just say this person died of COVID-19. Oh, this person died in a motorcycle accident. This person had COVID-19. We'll just say this person died from COVID-19. That's exactly what they do. Now, what's very interesting is that the people, you can see they can't take this anymore. We're starting to see video after video now of people going into places without masks. The latest one is CVS, where a flash mob, they went into CVS, and not just one, not just two, but many individuals, they were not wearing a mask, and they were parading around inside of CVS. Actually, we're starting to see a lot more of this around the country, where people are saying, I'm sick and tired of this. And actually, if they want us to wear a mask, and I've said this over and over and over again, prove it. Prove that it works. Until they prove it, you shouldn't be wearing it, because it doesn't make any sense. Now, what's very interesting is that Sky News, they came out with this tweet. It says, figures released by NHS England show there are now more COVID-19 patients in NHS hospitals in England than there were during the April peak of the first wave. So wait a minute. They're saying there's a lot more people in these hospitals. It's worse than ever. But Nigel Farage, he responded to this. And he says, if this is the case, then why do the NHS Nightingale hospitals stand completely empty? And why are hospitals empty? Why are nurses and doctors and administration staff, why are they dancing around in halls with nobody in them? And why, when we drive up to the hospitals and we go inside, there's nobody there? Something is wrong. They're lying to us once again. If this is such a bad thing right now, especially in California, where it's unbelievable, it's terrible, why don't they build the makeshift hospitals? Why don't they bring in the hospital ships? Same thing in New York. Same thing in every location. If this is so terrible, why don't they do it? Why aren't they requesting it? I mean, we are in a national emergency because it's being driven by the mainstream media. It's being driven by the invisible enemy. That's why. Now, it seems that Boston, they decided to take down the Abraham Lincoln statue that celebrated emancipation of slaves. They decided to remove it. And once again, we can see what they're preparing for. This is all part of the Great Reset. To create a new world, you have to erase the old world. You have to erase history, rewrite history. So generation after generation, they learn something completely different. And this has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. This has to do with the 1619 Project. This has to do with teaching our children, our children's children, a completely different history. This way, they forget about the old world and they're taught about the new world. And they created Common Core to dumb down the people, to teach them that, oh, you don't have rights. These are privileges. They were rewriting the rights of the people. And this is all being done to usher in a new world. Is this going to succeed? Absolutely not. Trump is already countering them. And we can see that he called them out on it, and he's placed certain individuals to head up the 1776 Project. Now, what's very interesting is that we know that the Patriots, they've been planning on taking down the deep state, the invisible enemy, for a very, very long time. This wasn't a plan that was just thought up yesterday. This plan was created a long time ago to go after the deep state. And this is why Q continually tells us, enjoy the show. It's like a movie. You ever watch a movie where you think things aren't going to go the way it's supposed to, and all of a sudden everything turns dark, and you think there's no way they can get out of it, and all of a sudden the tide turns and everything starts to go the other way? Well, Soul War, and this is Kate's Dwayne, he put this interesting thread out, and I just want to read it to you. He said this was always going to come down to the wire. President Trump is going through every single legal and constitutional process available to him in orders of magnitude. What do I mean by that? His numerous paths to victory in the 2020 election are failing one by one. As each pathway falters or fails, Trump moves to another pathway that is less desirable than the previous one. Why less desirable? Think of these pathways as earthquakes. State courts equals 3-0 on the Richter scale to the nation. Federal courts is 4-0 on the Richter scale to the nation. SCOTUS is 5-0 on the Richter scale. See where I'm going here? I'm in the same small boat with Thomas Wichter, my brother Brian Cates, and a few more who are looking at all the numerous clues Trump given to the Americans who are paying attention. Clues that clearly show that not only is he in no danger of losing the presidency, he's about to absolutely wreck all of the blatant, hideously arrogant, and corrupt domestic enemies that have, at the same time, they appear to be thwarting Trump at every turn, are being exposed and showcased to us to justify what he's about to do. Because Trump wargamed all this out years ago. Understand, President Trump is making good faith efforts to resolve this stolen election via these paths. But he and his people know how compromised our institutions and agencies are. If you grasp the actual level of resistance Trump gets from governments, your jaw would hit your knees. They have been assessing and compiling evidence for years. It's why I stated Mike Pompeo and about 10 other people are the U.S. State Department right now. Why do you think Special Operations was pulled out of the U.S. military chain of command and made practically its own department? See, the CCP has used the tried and true methods of the ancient crime families called the triads to build a global network to spread their control and influence through corruption, graft and honeypots, or blackmail. Gotcha, bitch. I now post 4 pictures for no reason whatsoever. The CCP doesn't have to handle their compromised operatives directly. See the NBA. Get it? For the past 20 plus years, they have been compromising key people in our government and institutions. As Flynn fought that, a silent war, Trump is now fighting back with key individuals. He set the stage for everything that's about to happen. I will say this again. Trump's election victory should have been declared on November 3rd, but the Democrats have gone insane. So now we are being shown the breadth and scope of the swamp before he shakes the box. I listen to everything President Trump says directly. I do not listen to anyone trying to tell me that he said or meant. I look at the actions of certain people in his orbit like General Flynn, Sidney Powell, etc., and I look for patterns and trends. I ignore the dog and pony show because it's all about distraction. I say again, the legal effort being made is legit, but failing. Congress is failing. The GOP is screwing Trump, and therefore, us yet again. Look utterly and completely hopeless, right? It's all falling apart. We're doomed as long as you give up. This is a test of faith, a crucible. President Trump appears finished. He looks weak, a goner. As he separates the loyal from the disloyal in the GOP, McConnell just blocked the quick vote on the $2,000 stimulus. Perfect. Every mask is falling away. I am 1,000% confident what will unfold on January 6th will be world-shattering. As I watch President Trump preparing for it for at least 10 years, I had to go back and research the years to 2016, the actual broad strategy to defeat our domestic enemies. By January 7th, Americans will know the swamp has been soundly broken and exposed. Still dangerous, mind you, but incredibly weakened. Or the Republic, as founded, will cease to be. Benedict Arnold is trending today because the Arizona GOP put out this picture of Trump in this uniform, holding a weapon, American flag, and the American eagle. So the left immediately likened the image to a portrait of Benedict Arnold, the infamous American traitor. As intended. Yes, it is simply that easy to play the left. Another information warfare gambit pays off, because we have over 100 Benedict Arnolds that are about to be exposed as the CCP operatives. The outing of Swalwell was just a harbinger of what's going to drop once Trump's second term is assured on January 6th. People can't see it because they're not looking. Now, what's very interesting is that on September 11, 2020, Trump put out a message, and John B. Vigilant tweeted this out. So listen to what Trump says.
Require the biggest thing that nobody even knows about, and it's all signed, and it goes into effect on January 1st. You better make sure I win. Can you imagine? This is going to be the biggest thing, and nobody understands what it is.
Now, Trump, he said this is going to be the biggest thing that nobody even knows about, and it's all signed. Now, does this have to do with some of the executive orders that he created? I mean, we know that hospitals will have to be required to publish their real prices for every service on January 1st, 2021. Is he talking about that? Or is he talking about something completely different that nobody knows about and that everyone will find out what it is come January 1st? Now, what's very interesting is that on January 1st, General George Washington, he hoisted the Continental Union flag, or some people call it the Grand Union flag. And we know from Q's post, there was a post on December 24th where George Washington, he was sailing across the Delaware in a Durham boat to attack the other side. And this changed the course of the Revolutionary War. He took them by surprise. So is Trump letting us know that something big is about to happen? It's starting to feel that way. And I do believe that a lot is about to change. Remember, the Patriots, they've been planning this for a very long time. This was never about just winning on November 3rd. This was not just about arresting a couple of people. This was not just about getting certain people into Congress and keeping Congress the way it is. This was about waking up the American people. Having the American people see all of this. Having the American people experience it. Having the American people feel the way they feel. Because without it, you'll never, ever demand change. And yes, people reach it at all different points. And this is what this is about. It's about returning the power to we the people. It just can't be given to us. We have to take it. And the only way to take it is to reach that point of destruction and say, we had enough. I don't like what this government is doing. They're not for us. And that's exactly what is happening. Trump, what he's doing, he's showing us it all. He's showing us what the mayors and governors will do. They will take away your rights. At least they'll try. They will stop you from making a living. They will stop you from going to work. They will try to control you. We're looking at the mainstream media, big tech. They will censor you. They will shut you up if you're not going along with their narrative. He's showing you Congress that they were just going to give you a measly $600 for all the pain they put you through. Yes, Congress, the deep state, the invisible enemy. That's all you're worth, $600. Months and months of haggling back and forth, and all they can come up with $600. He's showing you election fraud, showing you that the people, even though you go to vote, you never had the control. They took it away a long time ago. They decide who they want in office. This is the Great Awakening. He's showing you everything. Are you satisfied with this? Or are you becoming angry? Are you saying no more? Are you ready to take back the country? Because once the people decide we don't want this anymore, it ends for the deep state. This is why he's calling everyone down to D.C. Yes, the deep state, they're going to try a lot of different things. Yes, we're going to see a lot of chaotic action by the deep state. Yes, we're going to see false flags. Yes, we're going to see all of this. And of course, the mainstream media is their bullhorn. But when the people show up and the people say no more, this is when they run into trouble. This is why Trump is calling everyone down to D.C. or across to D.C. or up to D.C., depending where you live. Because he wants to show them that the people are taking back the country. The people are saying no more. And whatever they're going to try to do, I'm talking about the deep state, whatever they're going to try to do on January 6th, it's going to be countered by the people. The people are in total control. The patriots are in total control. And once January 6th hits, I think right after that, we're going to see a lot of things change. A lot of chaos is going to happen during this period of time. The deep state will fight back. Remember, they know what happens when he's reelected. They know it's game over. They know they're going to prison. So they're going to fight any way they possibly can. Now, does Trump and the Patriots, they know this? Of course they do. They've been telling us their playbook. They know exactly what they're going to do. Does this mean the deep state can't deviate from the playbook? Of course. But the Patriots, just like any military type of planning, they're prepared for all of this. And we can see this is about bringing down the entire system, exposing the system, bringing it down. Because without bringing down the entire system, without exposing it all, without having the people see it and experience it, we can't move on. And this is why it had to be this way. This is why the people had to see it, experience it. The Patriots, they're in total control. Enjoy the show. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.